Well, welcome to our webinar interview today with Wayne May. Wayne is somebody I've wanted to talk to for a long time. He is one of the foremost experts on North American archaeology related to the Book of Mormon peoples. And he's worked on a number of projects and loves sharing his insights. And so I'm really excited to have this opportunity to meet with Wayne. Wayne, welcome to Scripture Notes.
Thank you for inviting me. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So, a little bit of on Wayne's background. He was born and raised in Wisconsin, but he is a convert to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints of 54 years. And he served in numerous church callings for leadership and teaching. And his wife, Christine, is active with Wayne in the archaeological discoveries of the Midwest, which we're going to get into a little bit. And together they publish a quarterly magazine called Ancient American, which has been in continuous print for 16 years and covers the pre-Columbian Americas. And Wayne also just started a magazine devoted to LDS archaeology, geography, and the Book of Mormon as it applies to North America as the land of promise. And what is the name of that, Wayne? Has it started to publish, or are you just in
Oh,
the...
yeah, we started March of 2023, and we're right now. I'm just finishing up on issue number 6, which will be out here
Awesome.
the 1st of June. So we've got a full year, and we've already in March we started a second year, and then now we're June issues coming right up. And I can, if you want, I can just show you what it looks like real quick.
Yeah,
This is a
yeah. And what website can people go to? Land of Promise or something?
Yes, it's called LDS Archaeology.com. I can show you quick too. I did that. Can you see that?
Yes.
LDS Archaeology.com, and there's my phone number. Okay,
Awesome.
that's where you
Okay.
find it.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So, issue number 6 coming up. Wayne has also authored 5 books on the subject of Book of Mormon archaeology. They all relate to that. And where would people pick up your books? Off Amazon, or do you sell them just on the web?
Well, on my sites, of course, but then there are on Amazon, and that's just the 2 places. I'll tell you quick. I used to be at Deseret when I first came out, first couple of books, but I won't say a name, but a certain person came in charge of Deseret, and anybody that had stuff to do with North America, they kicked us all out. And I was one of them. There's about 11 of us that had North American material in there, and we all got deleted. That's all I can say. So I just in my site and at Amazon, and then of course at the conferences we hold.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do want to ask you about the upcoming conference in June. Do you want to put in a quick blurb for that? Do people go to the LDS archaeology site for that?
Yes, LDSarchaeology.com. It's June 21 and 22. It'll be held in Spanish Fork, and it's at the Mountain High Maple Mountain High School in Spanish Fork, and stadium seating, cushion seats, air conditioning, nice big stage, big screen. Food vendors will be there in between. We're going to go 2 days, and we got a great lineup of speakers. I don't know if you can see all this or not.
I will link to the conference in the
Okay.
video so people
Yeah.
can
Well, thank you.
go check that out.
Yeah, we usually run between 100 and 1,000 people in attendance, so we're looking forward to it. It's a lot of fun. I got great speakers. I got Bruce Porter coming in from Arizona, and everybody loves Bruce. So, and everybody else is awesome. We got great stuff, really great stuff. And we focus, history, archaeology, anything with the Book of Mormon that's related in those topics. We don't get off on all the extra stuff around the edge. We stay away from all that. We want to just stay focused on the book. Stay focused.
Awesome. Well, I'm actually going to attend that as well, so I will see you there.
Good.
Looking forward to it. All right, so let's get started here. In preparing for this, wrote down a number of questions because I wanted to make sure we used our time really well, and that I was able to ask you some questions I have about the Book of Mormon and geography. And so I just want to start off for those of my audience and others that watch this video. You're a convert to the church. I'm curious, just to start off, how did you first encounter the Book of Mormon, And did that lead you into archaeology, or were you already deep into archaeology and then you discovered the Book of Mormon and started studying the Adena and Hopewell civilizations?
Well, I'll try to make that as condensed as possible for you.
Yeah.
Um, I was tracked out by two missionaries totally by accident. And actually, my life in the church is all because of a ripped pair of trousers. In Wisconsin, I was working in a men's store. It was late October, early November. We had like -30, -20 degrees weather, extremely cold. All the lakes froze. No snow. Two missionaries were down there on P Day, sliding around. They'd never seen a frozen lake before. Of course, it was cool. And one guy slipped, did the splits, ripped out his pants. They came up on top to the city bank where I was at my store, working on my store. I was just an employee there. And I helped them get a pair of pants. And I suited them all up. And when they came in, I saw these white things flopping because he had his coat around his waist, and his partner was laughing his head off. And I just figured those are, long john underwear. It didn't matter to me. But anyway, we fixed the guy up. They never said a word. And as they walked out the door, I got myself into trouble because I said, wait a minute, guys. How come you both have the same first name of Elder? I have never seen that before. And then they were on me like bees on honey. And I saw the Book of Mormon first time. 3 days later, I went to one of their discussions they held in the public library, and they showed a film called Man's Search for Happiness. And I have to tell you, honest to gosh, the spirit lit me up, and I was a goner. I mean, it was really that simple. Now, I didn't get baptized for 2.5 years, but I studied everything that was in that film, and everything I found was real and accurate. And I converted to the gospel spiritually. Had nothing to do with archaeology, even though I loved archaeology. I was in it deep, but I had no connection yet. No connection. It was Central America. That's where it's at. South America, fine. Didn't matter. I was converted spiritually to the Book of Mormon. So I want everybody to know that. It's very important.
Yeah, I remember that film as a kid, and I watched it numerous times. I remember very well. That was one of my favorites. So,
It's a good
um,
one.
so at what point did you get into archaeology?
Well, okay. I joined in 1970, and of course, I'm moving along now, learning the gospel, learning how to be a priesthood holder, etc., all that good stuff. It wouldn't be until 1989 that finally my archaeology and my Book of Mormon archaeology, I should say, North America and Central America collided head on. And that was all because I had a little book that I picked up very, very early. And it was done from 1879 to 1919. It was the Book of Mormon. First time they put footnotes in the book. And in those footnotes, the footnotes favored a North America setting. You read about the land of promise, North America, ancient mounds of the Jaredites, North America. I mean, now there's South America things in there as well, but only a few. It was primarily all North America, and I didn't know what to do with that. But in 1989, it just kind of all came together when I read the letter from Joseph Smith to Emma that he wrote in 1834, crossing the plains of the Nephites, picking up their bones and skulls as proof of the divine authenticity of the Book of Mormon. The plains of the Nephites. Where did he walk in science camp? Ohio to Missouri. That's the heartland of a group that we call Hopewell. So the Hopewell for me have been my Nephites for a long, long time. And I didn't have all the answers, but I started in the heartland and then I spread out looking
Hmm.
for all the other attachments.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's talk for a minute about some of the work that you're doing right now. I know you're doing some fascinating work across the Mississippi River from Nauvoo with the
Oh,
idea
yes.
that Zarahemla was located there anciently. And I believe you pull that idea from the verse in the Doctrine and Covenants, section 125, verse 3, where the Lord says the saints should build a city across the river from Nauvoo and name it Zarahemla. And so my next question here is, I know in the Book of Mormon it talks about Zarahemla being burned with fire at the judgment time of Christ's crucifixion and then rebuilt during the millennial era of Fourth Nephi. And then around 300 AD, the city is mentioned with Moroni talking about his father Mormon took him there, and that the final war between the Lamanites and Nephites began there. So
Begins on the West Bank, yes.
so how is it that since that time, about 1600 years, that Zarahemla is possibly 20 feet underground. It just sort of boggles my mind. I'm not an archaeologist or somebody involved in that kind of stuff, that that much ground can accumulate over a city in
You
1600
know,
years.
you'll find that wherever you go doing archaeology, it's old. It's amazing how deep things are when they find them. And I mean, it's not just their Hemla. I could show you a dozen places throughout the Middle East and Europe, the same situation. It's amazing how fast things get covered up. Just amazing. And what we have done over there is we have done core samples to find dating, and we've got dates. We have to go down around over 30 feet, but hit the Zarahemla targets. That's where we're at. And prior to that, we'll hit the Mississippi layer, and then that will start getting into historic stuff. And we can find things that we date, which we've done. And one of my favorite hits is we hit at 225 BC, we hit a fire pit, which was a target for us, and we got clamshell. And so the clamshell we could date, and the clamshell came back at 225 BC. So my thing was at 225, the Nephites hadn't arrived yet. So we tapped into a Mulekite clamshell bake. That's what we called it, a clamshell bake for the Mulekites.
Hmm.
So that was awesome. Now, what I did over there is I raised money from some wonderful people in the church, and we purchased 15 acres. And it is what I believe is the actual temple site. We have a rectangular structure on the site that we've located through all kinds of different ways and scientifically had it validated through high-tech information. Dr. Kevin Price is our scientist. I use the word he's on my staff. Well, there's only three of us. I mean, but Dr. Price is my guy. He's my scientist. And boy, he really nailed it. He backed up everything that we found on the ground with electronic GPR and resistivity and et cetera, and by digging. And he validated the whole thing. So, I mean, up to that time, everybody called it Maze Sandbox, and I was okay with that. That's fine because it's a big rectangle. It's about 84, 85 wide, 144 deep long. That's the big rectangle. Now, inside of that somewhere would have been the mound on top of that mound, which would have been the temple itself, the structure. But that's been leveled by plowing. It's all been leveled. But yet we can still find the rectangle because of high-tech science that we have today, which is marvelous. Now, we're also in the back in this issue for June for Land of Promise. I will show the first time the remains of walls that went around the actual city itself. We got terrific finds going on. I can just give you a little sneak peek here. I don't know how much you can see on there, how well it is, but it's called the Bean, and it's got it all laid out. That you can see I don't know if you can see it or not, but temple sites right here going across to Nabu, and the ring out here, the orange is place that I should say red. That's where we've got positive ID. We've got all the digging we've tested, and then up here we haven't a lot of this we have not walked yet to the north, and that's where I'll be spending my time this summer. And all this will be published in the June issue. So people can be brought up to speed what our work is doing. Because I've got donors, sending 10, 15, 20 bucks a month, and it helps a lot. And because of that, I can do this stuff right here. So that'll come on the June issue. And we're
Wow,
very pleased. What we found is going slow because there's only a few of us, but we don't have a university behind us. And it's a slow grind, but we're very positive. We're on fire.
that's awesome. That's really exciting because, regardless, like you said, it's a spiritual conversion to the Book of Mormon. But when you start to actually look into evidences and stuff like that, and you start to find things, it's exciting to contemplate. What you just start to put a picture in your mind of the people and a little bit more about them.
The people that contact me back on email, they'll see my stuff on YouTube and wherever. And that's one of the first things almost every one of them says. They said, now when I read my Book of Mormon, I have a visual and I can see it. And then some people say, well, I've already jumped in my car and we drove out to Ohio and Pennsylvania and Western New York, and we've seen the things that you've shown on your video. I said, yeah, we feel like we really have walked where the Nephites walked. And boy, I tell you, that's my paycheck. That's my paycheck. They have people getting excited.
I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and I didn't know anything about this stuff growing up because I grew up with the Mesoamerica, farms
Of course.
kind of stuff. And I came out here, and several years ago, I became acquainted with Rod Meldrum, and actually through other stuff before his Firm Foundation stuff. And when I did become familiar with it and started looking into it. It was very fascinating. And I took my family on a trip back through Ohio, and he mentioned a place to stop. I can't remember if it was Chillicothe or a different place, but we stopped at a museum there, visitor center, really. And it was where there's like 3/4 miles of the ground dug up and mounded up, just like Captain Moroni's fortifications. And it was so cool to see
Hmm.
what was right there. And one of the park rangers that was in the visitor center, national park ranger, not a member of the church, he said, "Oh, have you been to this place, about 15 miles from here?" And I said, "No, we just came straight here today." And he said, "Oh, it's really interesting. They are excavating along the top of the mounds, and they are finding tree trunk size holes." And I just smiled and I was like, have you ever read the Book of Mormon before?
Yeah.
And I flipped to Alma.
Uh-huh.
He couldn't get out of there fast enough, but I was totally fascinated by it. Here he is telling me, yeah, there's tree trunk size holes in the
Yeah,
top of these
that's
uh,
right.
huge mounds.
And that's
And
your wooden posts going up, just like in the Book of Mormon. They're all there. It's all there. I'm telling you,
yeah,
it's all
it
there.
was it was remarkable to see that.
Well, let me just add a quick story to that. I know enough of the curators out there at the various sites that you go around every, and I see them. I know most of them. And one of them, Susan, she took me aside last time I was there with a bus tour, and she says, "Wayne, I got a problem." And I thought, "Oh boy, someone's assaulted this gal." I said, "What's up?" She said, "I love it when you guys come here. I love your tour groups. You guys are excited. You're enthusiastic." But he said, "Can you please tell your people to quit giving me Book of Mormons?" And she took me into her office. She had about 20 of them stacked up on her desk. And I said, "I can handle that. Not a problem. So take these and give them to your friends. Please pass them out."
Yeah, pass them out.
So that's all that was her problem. All these books kept coming. She said, "What am I going to do with all these books?"
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Oh, that's great. Great, great, great stuff.
That's funny. So, okay, so two questions. The dimensions of the area where you think is the temple, is the ratio similar to Solomon's temple, or is there anything there of that kind of evidence?
Well, I really can't say that. I mean, the Hopewell temple plots that we have all the way through Ohio and everywhere in Illinois as well. They're all different in size. They're close. I mean, that outside area is very, very close even to the area of the Salt Lake Temple. I mean, the Salt Lake Temple is in there. I mean, they're all very, very close to each other. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so I don't know if that would work, but that's just where it's at. However, they are in a rectangular form, rectangle.
Hmm.
That's what I can tell you.
So, do you know, did the Saints ever start to build a city there before they left Nauvoo, or did they just head straight out west?
Actually, I can't say that they had a city there, but they did have a lot of homes built over there. There's actually a Zarahemla cemetery, which I'm surprised. The church knows it's there, but they've not acquired it. And I
Hmm.
don't know why. It's in really a rough situation. I know the private landowner that has it, and occasionally on a small group, I'll take people up there so they can walk it. And there's a lot of people buried up there. I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of saints are buried there, and a lot of the stones and the markers are gone. But you can see where the graves are. I mean, you can walk in. This guy's got a lot of them marked out, so you know
Hmm.
where it's at. And that was the Zarahemla Road went down you're on the West Bank now. We're in Iowa, and there's a Zarahemla Road went down, and the main streets there and the houses, the foundations, you can still kind of find them in the woods. And then it goes out into, then it's all farmers' field looking over to the Nauvoo Temple. So I can't say they had a town there for sure, but they called it Zarahemla. They called it
Hmm.
Zarahemla. Just like all the other places, like Nash and everything else, they had named all these other places in the area.
Hmm. Cool. Okay, the next question. In Mormon chapter 1, verse 8. So this is after the millennial era of fourth Nephi, and the people, it says began to be a war between the Nephites, who consisted of the Nephites and the Jacobites and the Josephites and the Zoramites. And this war was between the Nephites and the Lamanites and the Lemuelites and the Ishmaelites. And so we've got the two camps, but they've broken off into ites. And this has always fascinated me because during the centuries of peace after Christ visited them, they were one people. There were no more ites. And I'm curious if you've ever found anything in the Hopewell culture or something that sort of indicates there was sort of this tribalism within the culture that would indicate there was some kind of subclassification. Like what differentiated Jacobites from Josephites and Nephites and so on. And maybe it isn't possible to do, but essentially we're told that people classified themselves into one of several groups. I'm not sure how they could do that after mixing their seed for hundreds of years, if it would be genealogy based or belief based. Or anyway, I'm just wondering if you've had any evidence of something like that in the discoveries.
You really can't tell if you're at let's say a burial ground of Jacobites or Nephites or I mean, I will tell you one differentiation that does come up quite often. It's puzzling to the archaeologists, but it would look at the two groups as just two entities. The fact is that sometimes where burials have been dug up, there is absolutely no artifacts, none. Now, by my way of thinking, that's probably righteous people that have been buried there. And I would say maybe it's our Nephites, you really can't say, but there's no artifacts. And then yet you'll go 10 miles over, another area has been dug, and they've got pottery and they got weapons and they got necklaces and all kinds of stuff to go into the afterlife, supposedly. And I don't think the Nephites, I mean, if I die today, my wife's not going to put my fishing pole in my coffin or my gun, or my bowling ball, right? That's all going to go to the kids. So I'm not going to have anything left to go on to the next life. So I'm going in just the way I came into this life. I'm broke. So to me, that's how I look at it. But to sit down and sift out between the various groups, but there is one other division that's really popped up, and it's confusing to the archaeologists, but I think I got an answer. If you ask an archaeologist, draw us a map of the Hopewell area, of course, they'll cut in Missouri, western New York, Wisconsin, down to Florida, and this is the whole area. And then when you get up around by Tennessee, they usually have a little space where Tennessee is marked out where they claim there's no Hopewell in East Tennessee. And yet there is Hopewell there. And here's what troubles them. In East Tennessee, they find the oldest graves that match Lehi's arrival, 600, 500 BC in that area, 300 BC. They find that they're not building so many mounds like everybody else. They're digging holes and they line the bottom with a limestone slab. They're putting slabs up like the sides of a box and then two ends, and they put a slab of limestone on the top, and then they throw dirt over it. Well, guess what? That's how the Israelites buried their dead over in Israel. That's a typical Israel type burial, but it's in East Tennessee. So that has differentiated that group of Hopewell in East Tennessee from everybody else. And for me, East Tennessee, I believe in my research, that's where Nephi and company went when they left Florida area, get away from Lehman and Lemuel. They went northward, northwest, or straight north, because they're sitting down in that area. That's the oldest Hopewell in America is Florida. So they had to go up. And East Tennessee, and we find a lot of stuff there. That the big one is the Norris Dam project. And I can't stress this enough. Early 1930s, all the flooding in East Tennessee on the river. Federal government comes in to help the farmers and locals, and they're going to dam up the East Tennessee River. They're going to dam it up, the TVA. They're going to do it. However, that whole area, lots of burial mounds, lots of sites, and they allow archaeologists of the day to come in and just wherever you want to go, because it's all going to be buried underwater. And they found this one place near what's called the Norris Dam project. It's in northeast Tennessee. First layer was Mississippian mound. Second layer, Mississippian mound. Now, this is typical Israelite stuff. They build tells one on top of the other. The bottom one is Hopewell, and they date the thing 600 to 550 BC. Now, carbon dating is not totally accurate, but you got your plus and minus years, but we're in the right area. That's my point. And what do they find? They find a rectangular structure, huge posts, and inside are piles of natural stone that are collapsed, which for me would have been remains of an altar. And this guy named Rendell Harris in England, he gets a hold of this information. Now, he's an Egyptologist, very knowledgeable guy, knows all about Egypt, and he declares that an Egyptian temple. I mean, this is like mind-blowing to the American archaeologists in the 30s. They say, what the heck? And then as he goes further, he finds the names around there are Egyptian names, the rivers there. And then he also mentions, guess what, guys? Tennessee is an Egyptian word. Tena means land of, Se means Isis. It's a land of Isis. So he does all this stuff, and he's in London, and his work is sitting in London. And you can get a book out there, and there's images there of the rectangle. They show it, and some of it is in that Morristown at the Knoxville University, excuse me, Morristown University there, University of Tennessee. They've got some material there from that. I don't know if anything went to London or not, but Rendell Harris is our guy. So my question is, they've never found another structure like this anywhere in America, ever. Never, 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 never. What's the chance? What's the chance that could actually have been the foundation for Nephi's temple? I mean, it's
Yeah,
crazy, but it's there. So anyway, that's
that's
the only
fascinating.
differences I can really tell you.
Where did who named Tennessee? How old is that name?
Don't know. Good question. I haven't got an answer.
Okay.
That's a good
Uh,
one.
so okay, so here's a counter question. One of the things I remember as a kid was seeing the discovery of Stella 5. I'm sure you're familiar with that Mesoamerican
The
stone
tree of life.
that's got the tree of life, the two people with their backs up against it, and other people partaking of the fruit. And and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, it's like Lehi's dream, and they found it in Mesoamerica. And
Yeah.
so how do you kind of explain that as being found there instead of like North America?
I'll answer it two ways.
Okay.
The first way is just a logical thing. First of all, after Christ came here, we've got this almost a 200-year window where things are really, really wonderful in North America. Okay. At that time, I believe missionaries would have gone out all over the Western Hemisphere. I have to believe that, which means they carried the story of the Book of Mormon. They carried the story of their father, Lehi, which means they would have received the information post Book of Mormon. I
Hmm.
mean, I'd say post the arrival time. Okay. Now, that's just my explanation. However, if you really want to know the answer, you got to go to BYU to the anthropology department because they have debunked that whole stone. There's a whole story out there. They said it is not a tree of life thing, and it's all there. It's
Hmm.
for me to repeat it would be silly. You can get there and read it online or the books or library, but they have debunked that story. It is not the tree of life stone. So
Oh,
I have to put
fascinating.
it back on to the anthropology department at the Y.
Got
Okay.
it. Okay. That's interesting. I had not heard that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in Mosiah 7, King Mosiah commissions this expeditionary force to go back to the land of Lehi Nephi, and he sends 40 strong men to go up to that land. And that's what it says in the scriptures is go up.
Yep.
And so when they arrive, he announces that they have come up out of the land of Zarahemla. And
Yep.
so my question is, if Zarahemla is essentially at sea level along the Mississippi River across from Nauvoo, where did they go up to if Florida is also at sea level? I don't know if
Okay.
you've ever.
Omni is the answer for this. It's in that part telling that story. When they leave the land of Nephi with Mosiah, they go down to Zarahemla. They go down, and when they come back, then the group in Zarahemla, they decide they want to go home to the land of Nephi. And two times in Omni it says now they went up to the land of Nephi. Well, obviously it's at elevation. That hit me years ago. I was sitting in priesthood class, excuse me, Sunday school class, and it was Book of Mormon that year. And that hadn't hit me yet. But they're talking about this going back and forth business. And I realized, oh my gosh, these guys have to be moving by elevation. And so I turned to my wife, and she had the keys in her purse, right? I said, "Hon, I'm skipping priesthood. I got to run home real quick." She said, "What for?" I said, "I got to look something in the encyclopedia. I just had a brain thing. I just got to do it." She said, "No, you're not. You got to sit here and wait." So I vibrate all the way through priesthood class till I get out of there. I was on fire. So as soon as I got home, I opened up the Tennessee to my encyclopedia, 1,800, 3,000 square elevation wise in that area, roughly speaking. And you go down to if Zarahemla was across from where we think it is, where I think it is at 125.3, they're sitting at 3 and 600 feet. So that's a match. That's a match up and down. And then I looked at Lehi's travels when he left Jerusalem. Every time he goes out of Jerusalem, headed into the wilderness, he goes down. He goes down. And then when he sends his sons back, they always go up to Jerusalem. They go up to, it's all there. And when you're in Jerusalem, you go down to everywhere you go down. And if you're around Jerusalem and in the other cities, you want to go up to the temple, you always go up to the temple. It's elevation. That's all it is.
So, okay, so my question was along those lines that it's elevation, but I was thinking the land of Lehi Nephi was Florida, which is at sea level
Oh,
like Zarahemla would be. But you're
no.
saying no, they landed there, but then came up to Tennessee.
Well, yeah, it's because Nephi leaves them, and then
Mhm.
they all that years have passed, and they're in the land of Nephi where he settled to get away from Laman and Lemuel. So
Okay,
that's an easy break, easy break.
got
See, the
it.
land of Florida and that states down there, Laman gives it the name of Jerusalem. That's the land of Jerusalem. They name it after their father's location. It says that right in the Book of Mormon. So that land down there becomes the land of Jerusalem, and north of them is the land of Nephi. Borders, well, no one's going to know where the border is, but I would look for a geographical situation. I look to rivers for border lines. Very helpful to do that kind of thing. But anyway, separation is there.
Okay, got it. Uh, okay, Second Nephi 5:16, we read that Nephi built a temple after the manner of Solomon's temple. But he says that it was not built of so many precious things because they were not to be found upon the land. But in the verse right before that, he says he taught the people to build and work in all manner of materials, including gold and
Oh,
silver and
sure,
precious ores, which
sure.
were in great abundance. So,
I love it.
what were the precious things that he didn't have that Solomon did for the temple?
Well, first of all, most people don't realize what is in East Tennessee and that area of Georgia and the Carolinas. They have gold mines there today that are just as productive as they are out west. And they got silver mines and they got copper mines. It's all there. Everything they needed is there to match that scripture. Now, other things that they may have used to make it precious and beautiful, I have no idea what they could have used, other than they worked in wood. There's only one or two passages they may even mention stone. Every time they mention buildings or building something, it's building out of wood and copper. That's the two biggies. Wood and copper over and over. Just watch for it. You'll see it go by. Wood and copper. Stone's very, very light, very, very light. But they did use stone, but they didn't make their buildings out of stone. They made them out of wood. Wood, copper. Gold and silver is there. Georgia's gold mine today is just as big as it's almost as big as Kennecott. I mean, they got a lot of stuff there.
Hmm.
Everything is there. It's in the Book of Mormon. It's all there.
Yeah, and I can totally see the Lord leading Nephi to where they would have access to, the things that they need and uh, totally see, Nephi obviously was skilled in metallurgy and those kind of things. So, um,
Now, you mentioned things that they need. Can I make a mention here?
yeah,
Spin off? Okay. When they left Jerusalem, it said that they took all seeds with them, seeds and plants and whatever, right? So wherever they landed, they're able to plant right away. I mean, so to me, they had to arrive in the spring or something very favorable climate-wise. I was thinking about that. I said, gosh, I wonder what is the latitude of Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem? So I just pulled out my map and ran a line from Jerusalem. Jerusalem was sitting at 31.7 degrees, and I ran it right over to, and it runs right into Florida. And then below it is 30 degrees. So here we are. The oldest hope well in America is in Florida. So my point is, if they landed in Florida, they could have planted all their seeds without any difficulty whatsoever. The latitude is the same. It's the same latitude right there. The same. Marvelous, marvelous.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Uh, okay, in your research, have you found any particular artifacts or cultural practices from the Adena and Hopewell cultures that you believe link directly to narratives or peoples described in the Book of Mormon?
Uh, well, of course, pottery is a generic thing. I couldn't tell you if Nephi made this or a guy made this post Book of Mormon, unless it's dated, of course. And of course, we have pottery dated in the Book of Mormon timeline from the sites. But the style, some of the best pottery we have is really Hopewell has some really good stuff. Adena a little bit, but then the Mississippians come post Book of Mormon, and their pottery is better than all of them. Coming up in that time period, at 900 to 1200 AD. So that's kind of a tough one. Um, Copper-wise, though, they mentioned making their weapons and swords, and we find swords in the Nephite timeline or the Hopewell timeline. We find swords, and we're all made out of metal. We find that smelting is in Hopewell timeline. Bill Connor is our expert on smelting out of Ohio. He lived in Chillicothe. He's deceased now, but Bill identified about 13 smelters. And his best one is he found an iron axe head inside a clay mold right at Chillicothe, not far from where you went for your first stop. At I believe you went to Mound City. The way you described it sounded like Mound City, where you were
Okay.
at with the burials and encircled by a big rectangle. It
Hmm.
sounded like Mound City, and that matter of fact, I could show that to you. Just let me
There were
grab.
like there were three mounds in the middle of it, if that rings
Yes,
a bell. So
that's it. That's it. Let
okay.
me just grab an artifact. Hold on.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. This is clay. And right here, you can see this little nubbin here. That's the pour hole. They had a portable crucible. They poured this metal right here, iron, into this mold. And this is one of Bill found this. Him and his grandson found this at the Garrett site, not far from Chillicothe. We got smelting all over the Ohio area
So
in a big
what
way.
is that being made?
Pardon now?
What is that that's being made?
Oh, it's the axe head. The axe.
Okay. Oh
Yeah, it's
yeah,
an axe
okay.
head. Yeah, you can see here's the top, and then the dent down, and the bottom's back here. But it's been inside the mold. I've never seen one of this in any museum in North America. This
Hmm.
is one of a kind. I mean,
Yeah,
this is priceless. This is priceless. But there it is. But that force spout, that's really really key. I mean, a portable crucible. I mean, come on, guys. These guys are high tech. I mean, you're talking about liquid iron. You're walking around pouring it out of a crucible. I mean, these guys, yeah. Our Nephites, our Hopewell people, they smelted. Period. Period.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I know there's other artifacts that deal with like the mystic symbol and some of these things that would are references to Christ. Can you explain that for people that aren't familiar with the mystic symbol?
Oh, okay. Yeah, very briefly. The Ojibwa people in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Canada, um, they carry what's called the mystic symbol. Mystic symbol it's cuneiform. Now, cuneiform is back in the old country, 3000 BC, it was very commonplace. By 1000 BC, it kind of went underground as like a secret language, like for lodges and secret societies. But yet, cuneiform is still well known. We know what it's used for. But they have it over here, and it's got five. But they like five nails, and it's Yod Hey Vav. That's how you say it. And that is on the Michigan artifacts. Now, the Michigan artifacts have been treated very poorly. Over 10,000 pieces have come out of the state of Michigan, starting about it. The first one that I know was seen was 1856, as far as an artifact out of the earth. However, in Canada, they spot them in 1812, and prior to that, starting on Monhegan Island, coming down the St. Lawrence Seaway, coming into this country. But then Michigan as a state just got covered by these things. I mean, 10,000 artifacts. If you want to pull out a hoax, a couple hundred pieces, I can understand, but 10,000 pieces, guys, 27 different counties. I mean, come on. It's just too big. Now, could there be some fakes in there? Well, yeah. Show me a museum anywhere on God's green earth that you don't find fakes in their museum. It's a problem. There are people that make fakes. It happens, but 10,000 pieces, and they're beautiful, and it's representative of Christ. That's what it is. We find images of him and certain scenes that have this on it, and there's these five nails, the Yod Hey Vav. Now, Yod Hey Vav, this is cuneiform. It looks like nails, and this is the Yod, this is the Hey, and the Va. Yod Hey Vav. You show this to any Orthodox Jewish person, and they'll look at those things. They'll say, yeah, that's Yod Hey Vav. That's part of God's name, part, because it's not complete. This they will recognize. They don't like to say it out loud, but the whole name they won't say it all out loud. But this is the portion of it. And our Ojibwa people in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Canada, this is in their Medewan lodge. They have knowledge of this symbol. This is cuneiform, 3000 BC, but it's here in America. America. And you'll find it very heavy with the Micmac people up in Labrador and Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, and Maine, the state of Maine. That's where the Micmacs live. And they're really deep into cuneiform, big time. Matter of fact, they're the only ones that have a written language. It's called their script. And the characters in there, several, I mean, like over 20 characters match the stuff what we call the ancient transcript, which is not the ancient transcript. David Whitmer, I believe, wrote it. But anyway, the characters match what's on that transcript. And I show that in my lectures, how they match. So there's some stuff going on here that we're just not on top of yet. And unfortunately, our academics have poo-pooed all this. They said it's a bunch of baloney. But any Jewish person, any Native American of the Ojibwa country, they'll tell you this is the name for a creator. This is God's name. This is the Great Spirit.
And I know that on some of the artifacts where this has been found, there's like pictures of like Christ being crucified and stuff like that.
That is correct. That is correct. I would say probably most of the artifacts are scenes of other things taking place, which we haven't figured out. And you got a small window of Christ's involvement. Then again, it goes off into more scenes. So it's telling us a story. It's a story. There is one that you'll recognize. It's Solomon. They got the story of Solomon and the two mothers fighting over the living child. A beautiful tablet. Beautiful tablet.
Hmm.
So
yeah. I've never seen that one. That sounds interesting. My son asked this question, and I said I was going to be able to talk to you. He asked if you had found any ties to the Ute Indians in Utah. What might there be out here?
Okay, let me say this. I think the Utes have a connection. The Utes, however, are extremely private. I've met a couple, but they're very unwilling to tell you much. I have seen an iron sword that they have. I mean, it's big. It's really big. And they did tell me they've got big people out there in the mountains buried that are 8 and 9 foot tall. Now, I just got this verbally. I have nothing to show you. And they've got a couple they call they're such good shape. They call them Adam and Eve. They just call them, for whatever reason, they call them Adam and Eve. I've never seen it. I've met two other guys that have seen it, so I know I'm not crazy. They got the same story, and this one guy did actually witness these things. And I know him. He's a good friend of mine. I don't know why he would make something up, but I have nothing to show. And I don't know any Utes. I can go out there and try and get some information. But I think they're sitting on top of a lot of information. I really do.
Yeah. Well, I know there's different, each tribe has their own records and histories, oral and some written. I know the Hopi have, some prophecies and things that have kind of been made public. And so it's all fascinating. They all have some kind of origin story that seems to tie in.
That's right.
So is there, let's see. So another question that somebody asked me to ask you, is there anything about the Book of Mormon being based in North America that points us more to Christ? And I don't know if that's
points us more to Christ
than if the Book of Mormon were to have taken place somewhere else.
I would have to say that points of Christ. Let me just think for a minute. Yeah. I mean, if I understand the question, I think I could answer it this way. I would answer that by telling them to go read First Nephi, chapter 22, verse 7 and 8. And then read Second Nephi, chapter 10, 10 through 12. And then read Ether 13, chapter 2, 6 through 8. You read those passages, and you should be able to put United States behind every single verse. And if you cannot see that, I think we're reading a different book.
Yeah.
All those verses point to the United States of America as the promised land, period. And let me just highlight a couple for you if I could, okay?
Sure.
The Garden of Eden, Adam lived there, Noah lived there, Adam on the Ammon is there, Enoch lived there. It's a nation of Gentiles. to be a land of liberty, a land to be a free nation, land of the New Jerusalem, no kings allowed in the land, nations of the world will flow unto it. It'll be protected against all the other nations. Now, if you're going to tell me that's Belize or Yucatan or Guatemala, I just don't see a fit. A nation of Gentiles, the Indian population is still down there. Their population was not decimated like in North America. I mean, there was over a couple million people here on first contact, and when we got done with, there's about 200,000 left. I mean, they really got it. I mean, the Lord laid it on them big time for what had happened. But now that's over. We got to forget that. That's over, done with. And now we are on the line. We got to keep up what we're supposed to do. Otherwise, I mean, hey, Adam people is gone, the Jaredites are gone, the Nephites are gone. Are we any different? Are we special that we can go and sin and do all this junk going on in our nation right now? No, we're not. We're under condemnation. I really believe that. We got to be very careful as a nation, or we will be in big trouble.
Yeah.
Maybe it's too late. I don't know.
Yeah, we're pretty ripe as a nation.
Pretty ripe.
It's pretty far gone. So,
yeah.
So let me redirect the question a little bit. Is there anything about the Book of Mormon taking place in North America as opposed to the events if they had been somewhere else that would point us more to Christ? So not just that, like, this is the promised land, but like, is there anything you can think of about it being here that would point us more to Christ than if it took place somewhere else?
Well, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is the Kirtland Temple. People always ask me all the time, well, where is the Bountiful Temple? And I say, well, honestly, I don't know. We don't have a clue. However, priesthood patterns are definitely used by Heavenly Father. He repeats things in the same place. And when we read what happened in Joseph's day at the dedication, and even non-members saw things up on the roof, angels and things going on that were like, what's going on? You know what I mean? If I was at the pearly gates of heaven and the Lord said to me, one more question, Wayne, you're in or you're out. He said, where was the Bountiful Temple? I would say Kirtland, Ohio. That would be my answer. Because of what took place there and what took place in Nephi, third Nephi. I mean, those two events were major events. Major. And that'd be the only answer I can give you.
Yeah, well, I think that's interesting. And I've heard the Ohio area before. So, yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, when Christ said that he had other sheep that he needed to visit to the Nephites, so he comes here and he says that, and you kind of answered this earlier as well with the idea about the missionaries going all over. But do you believe that Christ visited Mesoamerica, but it just isn't the record of the Book of Mormon?
Yeah, he did. He went everywhere, not just Central America. I mean, he was overseas. He was in Japan. He was in Norway. I mean, he was all over the place. So, I mean, if anybody thinks that I'm pitching North America as the only place he showed up, man, they're a very big mistake. Big mistake. No. He sat there with the Nephites and he said, when I was over there, I told my apostles that other sheep I have to go see, the other fold. He said, that's you guys. And now I'm telling you, I still have other sheep I have to go see. Yeah. So the point is, he went everywhere. He went everywhere. And I don't have a problem with it at all.
Okay, I'm fascinated that you said Japan and Norway. What kind of, are there some records that?
Oh, there's legends of this special guy showing up. Let me just share you one for here because I have firsthand knowledge of it. The month of July, I was with my friends, the Ho-Chunk, which people know them more as Winnebagos in Wisconsin. And I was at a burial ground that's very sacred to them. And I saw structures that were Hopewell structures and a Hopewell timeline. And yet there's other small mounds, so it was in use for a long time, not just Book of Mormon time, but even thereafter, okay? But it was very special. And so I was talking to him, well, okay, I understand a graveyard is special. Was anything else? He said, well, yeah. I said, this is where that special guy came. And I said, well, special guy, what can you tell? Who's a special guy? He said, well, we don't know his name, but we called him He Who Walked This Land, White Robes Glowing. That's his name. He who walked this land with white robes glowing, healed the sick, raised the dead, etc., etc. I mean, it's all the same stuff, right? And so I said, how do you say that in Ho-Chunk language? So they taught me how to say that in their native tongue. And I'm going to give it to you. Wungskawa J-O Unak. Wungskawa J-O Unak. That means he who walks this land, white robes glowing. Every tribe that I have come to know out here, they all have a story of a special visitor. I mean, it's incredible. The ideas of Jesus showing up and they've all got it. I mean, they all have it in pieces. It's amazing, just amazing. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I edit this, I'm going to have to practice trying to say that. So that's funny. Um, okay. Another question. Somebody asked, he said he would love to hear you talk about the Michigan copper that's been found in Middle Eastern bronze, including the oxide ingots from Michigan found in sunken ships off the Turkish coast.
Okay, yeah. I can't, it was either like 85 or 89. It's called the Ulaburn wreck off coast of Turkey, Ulaburn. And you can find that online. Now, the copper there, it's in the oxide, and this is still a big problem because they've identified the copper, and they've all said the copper is so pure it can only come from one place, and that's Michigan, USA. Now, they haven't come out and admitted that, I mean, to make it a big deal, but yet that's all in the underlying stories. Are saying, my gosh, these people, could they really be crossing the seas before the Bronze Age, bringing copper in here to fuel all this stuff? I mean, this is really a big deal. Now, in Ancient American Magazine, my other magazine, I just printed a story there by a Greek authority. It's in there, and he lays out Greeks coming to Isle Royale in Upper Michigan, getting copper and sailing back across the Atlantic. It's all in there, all documented. So they're starting to come out of the closet, so to speak, and admit, yeah. And then I got one in England, a guy in Cornwall. Was clearing out his hedge, one of those hedgerows. He finds a copper arrowhead, and he took it there to the local university. I think it's actually he went to London, the London Museum, and they came back 5,000-year-old BC copper, USA, Michigan. And I got that. Yeah. So it's popping up in places, but they're kind of don't know what to do with it yet. Okay. Just like we're making cracks here in this meso thing, and they're coming around. You got to come from the grassroots up to get a change, and that's all I'm doing is trying to let people know. I've met so many people out there. They've been like you. They were raised in Central America. They get older. They find all this stuff that it's crazy. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't agree. And then rather than look for somewhere else, they just kind of they get disgusted, and they get maybe a little active, or they just kind of I mean, I'm not too cool on the Book of Mormon. But the search, it's out here. It's out here. If you need it, it's in the East. It's here. It's here. It's all here. Everything. I mean, give me some more questions. These are easy ones. I got.
Well, actually, those are most of the questions that I had. So
Okay.
I'm curious about like what are the next steps on the research you're doing in the land Zarahemla?
Well, I'll tell you what's happening right now. We'll be doing more work on the wall this summer. That's a big one for us. We got to go midway north. Now, what's slowing us down there? We have to get permission from the landowners. That's otherwise we would have had this done. Some of them won't let us on their land. Nothing to do with the church, just that they're private property. They don't want anybody walking their property. That's just the way it is. So, it's a constant struggle. I go back, knock on the door, and I say, that guy's back again, So that's me. Anyway, I just keep trying to, and I show them the Ancient American Magazine. It's straight archaeology. I mean, that's all it is. I'm not trying to shove Book of Mormon down their throats at all. I'm just looking to show that we got a potential Hopewell site here, and I'm looking for all the data I can gather. And that's my pitch. Pretty simple. But now, very interesting. A lot of people don't know about this, but in the diary of Elizabeth Baum, Baum, her father's Jacob. They're just east of they're just east of Nauvoo, not too far out where the farms were. A lot of guys had farms out away from the city, and across the road is Joseph's farm, where he was farming, and so he knew the Baums very well. Now, Father Baum, he had pigs in a certain corral, and evidently it was had to be pretty well plowed flat because he didn't notice anything until the pigs began to root, which they like to do. You get a good rainstorm, they're down in the mud. They like to root and throw the dirt. Well, they're throwing out bones out of this area where he had the pigs corralled. And he went over and he got the pigs out of there and he started digging and he found a huge skull, a big skull. And he cleared off some more and he found out there were guys laid there. They're laid out in the spokes of a wheel. Imagine spokes of a wheel going out, heads to the center, heads in the center, going spokes of a wheel. And there was 12 guys, 12 guys. And he said they were big, big bones. Showed it to his wife and kids. They were scared of the bones. The story got into Nauvoo. Joseph heard about it. Joseph comes out as Nauvoo, going back to his farm. He just stops by, and this is Elizabeth now. She's writing this down in her diary. She said, Joseph stops by and inquires father about the big bones. And Joseph shows them to him, and guess what he says? Those bones are Jaredites. Cover them up and don't let the pigs on them. Keep them safe. Leave them alone. Now, here's the kick. In Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Florida, we find circular burials, spokes of a wheel, guys to the center, 12 total. And our archaeologists, non-LDS archaeologists, have labeled those in the Adena culture. The Adena culture, if my Hopewell are Nephites, my Adena have to be the Jaredites, period. They identified it, and that's what he's got. And we've got permission, and we're working that right now. So we're going to be there this summer. We're working it.
Well, that's really interesting. Why would they put 12 in a burial circle like that? And I mean, during their battles, hundreds of thousands of people, could be killed.
Well, yeah.
So
laid out like this was not a battle thing, and they could have died in battle, but then they were carried and brought and given a proper burial. Because right next to Carthage jail, they found over 500 big guys buried right there in the city. And that's in the Carthage history of the town. It's there. 500 guys, big guys. They told you how big they were. They covered them over. When we didn't not even sure where the spot is anymore, but it's in the Carthage newspaper. The big guys. Now, that was a battle. That'd be a battle. They're all piled up and just covered over. Piled up. And that's called a battle mound. We find those in the Midwest. But the nice burials, and when you got archaeologists identified, by the way, the Hopewell timeline by our non-LDS archaeologists is 550 BC, 400 AD. I mean, guys, that's us. That's Book of Mormon. And these are not Mormons setting these dates. This is our academics out here in the Midwest who have no idea what's in the Book of Mormon. They have no idea. See, the Book of Mormon is the glue, because out here they've got a lot of great information, but the Book of Mormon helps you string it all together. Not everything, but a good portion. I mean, way more than they have, the understanding. I mean, there's so much more, so much more.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So that was all my questions for you, and you did a great job answering them. I appreciate that. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Do you have any parting thoughts you'd like to share about the Book of Mormon, or any other projects that you've got coming up besides the Zarahemla one?
Well, we've got the one with the burials. We sampled it last year, and we're going to go back. I will tell you this. When the brethren were at the Zelf Mound at Griggsville, Illinois, on the banks of the Mississippi, and it's very unclear where they took a few bones of Zelf or they took the whole Zelf skeleton. It's very unclear. But they wanted to rebury Zelf because of the revelation Joseph gave to him at the time. They wanted to put him on the temple site that Joseph had already identified in Independence to honor him. They wanted to take him there and bury. Well, they get down there, and of course, now all the big ruckus is going, anti-Mormon, the laws out, shoot the Mormons on sight and all that kind of jazz. They couldn't go into Independence. They're going to get harmed. So they had to bury him somewhere else. Well, they meet outside of Liberty, Missouri. That's where the Zion's camp comes to an end. Hiram Smith comes down out of Wisconsin, Michigan. Joseph coming across the plains, and they meet in Liberty, just outside of Liberty, about 10 miles away. And there's a monument there today raised by not LDS people, but our LDS and Community of Christ and the Bictonites and all the other groups that have all broke off since Nauvoo fell apart. Well, they identified that spot. It's a 2-acre spot. It's there. You can go see it. They've got a monolith erected to the Zion's Camp March. Well, at the Zion's Camp March on that 2 acres is where they supposedly buried the Zelf bones. And we shot it last year with electronics. We have a target at 3 feet. And right now we're waiting for permission from the association that owns it to allow us to bring in an archaeologist and dig up that 3-foot target.
Hmm.
And it's a rectangular target. It's a box.
It's a box.
Good thing they put his bones in a box. I mean, I can't imagine they dig a hole of dirt and just pitch his bones in the dirt. They would have, reverently wrapped them somehow. And to find a rectangular target 3 feet down, I mean, we're ready to take a shovel.
Yeah, wow.
But if the bones are there, if we find bones, well, first of all, we can get a date off the box. We can get a date off the bones. And if by any stroke of luck, we could still get some DNA off the bones, man, this would be awesome. That's going to happen in July.
Okay? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my plate is full. I got lots to do. And a big shout out to all those who are making $5 and $10 and $20 donations on my website. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because without you, I can't do all this stuff. Okay, I need the help, and just say thank you, because they're coming in nice little donations, and it adds up very quickly. Get a lot of people putting on $5 and $10. I'm not asking for the world. So yeah,
that's
great. What I'm doing. Okay.
Well, that sounds so exciting. I'm really excited to see what happens there, and
come see me in June at Spanish Fork. Come see me in June. 21, 22 Spanish Fork. Come see me.
Okay. And that website is ldsarchaeology.com.
That's correct.
And I know there's 2 spellings of archaeology, and yours
it's the old one. It's still got the letter A sticking in there. Yeah, I'm with the old one. I'm sticking with the old boys. Okay.
Okay. Archaeology with an A.
That's correct.
In the middle.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for picking up that. That's good. Appreciate it.
I just want to make sure. Yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks so much, Wayne. That was awesome. I think
pleasure. I'll tell you this. There's lots more.
There is lots more.
There's lots more.
So,
all right.
Well, we'll have to catch you again in the future, and
not a problem.
Get some more on that. So, thank you so much for being.
Enjoy the rest of your Sabbath.
Thanks. You too.
Okay. Wungskawa, J-O-Nuk.
Thank you.